All right, Jabosai, good morning. Let's begin. Beautiful daf at Jabosai. Today's daf is Mem Aleph, and we are picking up on the top of Mem Aleph, 4 lines down from the top, second word in Tashma. So Jabosai, just to reorient ourselves a little bit, we are focusing now on the incredibly amazing machlokes between Ula on Amud Aleph and Rav Nachman, Rav Amram, and Rav Yitzchak on Amud Beis. Specifically focusing on the idea of whether or not one person has the ability to aser that which belongs to someone else. Ula telling us yes, these other Rabbanim on Amud Beis ultimately telling us no. And again, we saw the Nafkamina case dealing in a situation where I do something quote unquote idolatrous to my fellow's animal. So just following along those same lines, the Gemara says as follows: Tashma, Bezochsim Besakin, Vishochtin. So the Gemara quotes from our Mishnah. 2 people are shechting an animal together. Remember again, each one holding one side of the knife. So Echad L'shum, Echad Mikolelu. One of them has in mind for some type of idolatrous purpose. One of the idolatries spelled out in the Mishnah. Ve'echad L'shum Davar Kasher. And one of them just has stam machshava, stam kavana, with nothing specific in mind, what we call the shum davar kasher. What's the halacha? Shchita so psula. The shchita is pasula. And both say, now the reason the Gemara is bringing this is as a proof to tell me that halacha l'maisa, I am permitted to go, or I am able, not permitted, I am able to go ahead and answer something which does not belong to me. See, the assumption the Gemara is making over here is that of the 2 people who are holding the knife, one of them owns the animal, one of them does not. And therefore, again, even if the one who does not own the animal has the machshava, has the intent for avodah zarah, he has the ability to answer the animal, which tells you that what? Adam oser davar she'ino shalo. That a person has the ability to answer something which does not belong to him. A proof to Ula, but ultimately, again, a contradiction to Rav Nachman, Rav Amram, and Rav Yitzchak. To which the Gemara says, no. Hacham, what's the case here? The islay shutfus begava. Both say halacha l'maisa. What's the case? They're partners. That the 2 guys holding the knife, both of them have an ownership interest in the animal, and that is why if one of them has a machshava for avodah zarah, he has the ability to answer the animal. Next, Tashma, hamitame v'hamidame v'haminasech. Supposed to listen to this next case. If I go over to my friend's produce and hamitame it, I ritually defile it, or midame, I mix in truma to it, which also will say for a non-Kohen will render it unfit, or minasech, or for that matter, again, I take my friend's wine and I make it into yayin nesech. What's talacha? B'shogeg potter. We'll say if I did this accidentally, as I'm potter, b'meizid chayiv. But if I didn't intentionally, ultimately I am chayiv. So we'll say, what do you see from here? Same thing. The Gemara says this is a case of where I'm going over to my friend's wine, I'm making it yayin nesech, and yet what's the halacha? The halacha is that it's going to be aser. Rabbi say, what do you see from here? You see from here, Adam oser davar she'ino shalo, that a person has the ability to answer something which does not belong to him. To which the Gemara says, no, Rabbi say same thing. The case over here is where the individual has a joint ownership in the item, and that's why halacha l'maisa, because of his joint ownership, he has the ability to answer it. To which the Gemara says, you're right. In reality, kitanoi. Rabbi say this discussion of Adam Oser or Ino Oser Davar She'ino Shalo. Does a person have the ability to answer something which does not belong to him? In reality, is a machlokes tanoim. Let's listen to this interesting case. Ovid Kochavim. So the Gemara says here, I'll tell you the case. Ovid Kochavim she nisech yeno shel Yisrael shelo bifnei avodas Kochavim. So let's listen to this. If an akum goes ahead and makes the wine of a Jew into yayin nesech, and he does it not in the presence of the Jew, what's the halacha? Asra. The akum has assered the wine of the Jew. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. It's the second to last of the short lines in Rashi. Asru, af bahana. So literally again, the akum makes the Jew's wine. Asr bahana, mamish into yayin nesech. Why? Rashi says, the adam oser davar she'ino shalo. Because a person has the ability to answer something which does not belong to him. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, Matirin also, but ultimately Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava say, no, the wine is going to be mutter. Why? Mipnei shnei dvarim. Ultimately on two accounts. Number one, echad she'in menaschin yayin ela b'fnei avodas kochavim. I will say number one is actually quite interesting. According to their opinion, the halacha is that you cannot go ahead and make wine into yayin nesach, not in the presence of the avodah zara. So this is actually quite interesting. In other words, you only make wine yayin nesach if you're in the presence of the avodah zara, actually in front of the idol. Therefore, again, if the akum does this and it's not in front of the idol, it's not yayin nesach. Furthermore, ve'echad sheyachal lomar lo lo kol hemincha shete'aser yeni la'onsi. Furthermore, again, I will say, it's actually interesting. The Jew can say to the akum, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Because he'll say, remember, what's this case? This case over here is the akum is taking the wine of the Jew, making the wine into yayin nesach, not in the presence of the Jew. So the first opinion says the wine is usher. Right? First opinion says the wine is usher. Why? Because that opinion is holding that Adam Oser Davar She'eno Shalo. A person could ask for something that does not belong to him. Second opinion says the wine is mutter on two accounts. Number one, there's a din in yayin nesach. Wine only becomes yayin nesach if it is nesecht, right, in the presence of an idol. Number two, the Jew can say to the akum, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You do not have the ability to answer something against my will. Which I will say, Rashi understands to mean what? Lo kol mincha, it's the first wide line here in Rashi. De'in adam oser davar she'eno shalom. We'll say ultimately again, what the second opinion of Yehuda ben Meser and Yehuda ben Bavar are actually holding is that one person doesn't have the ability to answer something which does not belong to them. And therefore, again, the akum really has no ability to answer the wine of the Jew. Rav Nachman, Rav Avram, Rav Yitzchak Amri, so let's listen to this. Rav Nachman, Rav Amram, and Rav Yitzchak, so they qualify this a bit more. So they say as follows, Afilu leman da'amar adam oser davar she'ino shalo. Furthermore, again, even according to the opinion who holds that one person could answer something which does not belong to the other, a person could ask something which does not belong to them, hani milikusi. Both say that's true with a non-Jew. Kusi in this context means a non-Jew. That's true with a non-Jew. However, aval Yisrael, but I will say when it comes to one Jew to another, so we do not believe that one Jew would answer something that belongs to a fellow Jew. And therefore, even if he quote-unquote says that he answered something, the way we understand, I will say what he's doing is how? Litzeure kamechaven. He's only trying to cause him tsar. He's only trying to cause him pain. So we'll say, so what we have over here essentially is like a three-way machlokes. Opinion number one says, Adam oser davar she'ino shalo. That one person has the ability to answer something which belongs to someone else. Right? That's number one. Opinion number two, and I will say, that opinion doesn't seem to make a distinction between Jew, non-Jew. One person has the ability to answer something which belongs to someone else. Opinion number two, Ein Adam oser davar she'ino shalo. One person cannot go ahead and answer something which belongs to another person. And opinion number three, even if you hold Adam Oser Davar She'eno Shalo, that is only by a non-Jew to a Jew. But from Jew to Jew, we would never assume that one Jew would actively answer something which belongs to another Jew. And even if he says he did, we don't actually believe that he did. Rather, he's only trying to cause the first Jew a little bit of tsar, or a lot of tsar. Right? We'll say, so that's the three machlokes right now. So let's analyze this. So the Gemara says, so now we have all three opinions in this sugya of Adam Oser, Eino Oser, Davar She'ino Shalo. So Tashma, so we'll say, let's analyze this a bit more. Beis Ochzin, Besakin, Vishochtin. So we'll say, ultimately, again, two people are holding on to a knife and they're shechting with the knife. Echad l'shum, echad mikolelu, ve'echad l'shum davar kasher. So we'll say one of them is shechting with intention ultimately to go ahead and for some type of avodah zara purpose, and the other is ultimately shechting l'shum davar kasher. We'll say again, just one more time, l'shum davar kasher does not have to mean any positive explicit intent, but rather l'shum davar kasher just means not for something puzzle. Because remember again, shchita Rabosai can be kavana neutral. You just can't have kavana for something bad like avodah zara. But other than that, again, your kavana is to a certain degree irrelevant. It's kavana neutral. So the Gemara says, now watch this. So what's the halacha shchita sapsula? The Rabosai the shchita is puzzle. Now, understand, what are we talking about over here? We're assuming over here that we're talking about two Jews, right? Two Jews shechting together. One of them is holding the knife and has kavana ultimately for avodah zarah. One of them is holding the knife and has kavana for regular stuff. Yet we see that what? The shechita is puzzle. Which Rabbi tells you what? That one Jew can aser something upon his fellow Jew. That contradicts what we said before. That even one who holds that Adam Oser Davar She'eno Shalo, we were saying that only applies to who? That only applies to an akum, to a Jew. But Jew to Jew, ultimately, again, that will not happen. To which the Gemara says, what's the case here? Be Yisrael Mumar. Both say the case ultimately, again, is the Yisrael Mumar. Both say, look at Rashi just a moment. Yisrael Mumar, it is in the wide lines, 2, 4, 6 lines down. Last word on the 6th line in on the wide lines. B'Yisrael Mumar, v'hu adin dematzi l'ukma b'de'is le'shutfos b'gavad el hashtem yakevan de'isra. Listen to this. Yisrael Mumar, Rabbi say, it has the status of an akum. Right? Yisrael Mumar is a Jew, but ultimately, again, who has pledged his allegiance to idolatry, or who actively repudiates Torah, or who actively violates Torah. We'll say, even though we normally say that even according to the Mandama, it says, Adam Oser Davar She'eno Shalo, that is only a din of an akum to a Jew. A Yisrael Mumar will in fact have this status of an akum for these particular halachos. Next, Tashma. Hametame v'hamedame v'hamenasech. So we'll say again, we're just restating the previous cases. If I go and I go over to my friend's produce, right, and hametame it, I ritually defile it. Therefore, again, let's say in a circumstance where it's no longer edible for him. Or medame, I mix in truma, and therefore, again, I will say, the food becomes unconsumable by a non-Kohen. Or menasech, or I take his wine and I make it into yayin nesech. What's talacha? B'shogeg potter, Rabbi say if it was an accident and ultimately I'm potter, but b'mezid chayiv. But ultimately, again, if it was done b'mezid, so I will be chayiv. So we'll say, so again, what's the case here? If you're telling me that even according to the man Da'amar who holds, Adam Oser Davar She'eno Shalo, that is only a din in an akum to a Jew, but not a din in Jew to Jew, how do you understand these cases? To which the Gemara says, again, be Yisrael Mumar. What we're talking about over here, Yisrael Mumar. So Yisrael Mumar, we'll say, is the person, is a Jew, but of course who's actively either pledged his allegiance to idolatry, actively repudiates Judaism. Such a person, for these halachos, will have the status of an akum, and therefore has the ability actively to aser the property of another Jew. So the Gemara goes weiter. Amrli Rav Acha Berei Drav Rav Ashi. Rav Acha Berei Drav said Rav Ashi, Hisrubo v'kibel alav hasra amayim. Both say another very fascinating case. You look at Rashi again. Hisrubo b'Yisrael. So we'll say, let's say again, we see a Jew and we warn him. What do we warn him? We tell him, shelo yishchat la'avodas kochavim, v'shachat la'achar shekibel hasra, v'kodem lachin lahaya b'chezkas mur. So we'll say, here's the case. I see a Jew. He is about to shecht for avodah zarah. Okay? We tell him, don't shecht for avodah zarah. If you do so, it's a chiyuv misa, right? It's avodah zarah, it's chiyuv misa. And what happens? So we warn him. Now, Rashi points out over here, before this episode, we did not know this person to be Yisrael Mumar, right? Before this episode, he was a regular guy. He was president of the Kiddush Club, right? I'm saying like a regular good Jew, right? So we'll say, so we had absolutely no understanding of him as being a Yisrael Mumar in any other way. So what happens? Now we warn him. Now watch this. V'kibel alav hasra. He understood, acknowledged, and accepted the hasra. Mai. What's talach? Now we'll say, what does it mean? What's talach? Look at Rashi. Mai. Mi aser olo kabalas hasra shemasun bo. Hevi odeh shata musra akach. V'atorah amra shata chayi misa. V'u amar yodeh ani. V'amenas kain ani osa sha'amos. So I will say, quite explicit, right? We tell him the hasra, you're not allowed to do this. If you do this, it carries to the death penalty. He says, I understand, acknowledged, and I'm doing it anyway. So I'll say, so what's the Gemara asking? What is the Gemara asking? The Gemara is asking, so we'll say, remember again, what did we say before? We said before that when one Jew quote unquote, asers something of another Jew, he's not really asering it. Rather, what is he doing? What is he doing? He's being mitzar, right? He's just trying to bother or to cause pain and anguish to the other Jew, but he doesn't really mean to go ahead and aser it. So the Gemara is asking over here is, okay, so what happens if we see Ruvain about to slaughter Shimon's ox for the sake of avodah zarah? So under normal circumstances, you're going to tell me Ruvain's not really asering the ox because he doesn't mean for avodah zarah, he's just trying to bother Shimon. Okay, what happens if we gave him bona fide hasra? Bona fide hasra, right? We warned him up and down. We told him what he's about to do is mamash hasra, carries the death penalty. He acknowledges the hasra, accepts the hasra, and says it doesn't matter, I'm doing it anyway. So what's the status of the shechita? To which the Gemara says, he answered, Hitir atzmo lemisika amrit. But in a case like this, where Reuven's doing what he's doing and actively accepting a punishment of death, ein lecha mumar gadol mizeh. I both say this guy is certainly, unfortunately, he's still a mummer. Again, I both say we can say under normal circumstances that when one Jew, quote unquote, asers something of his fellow Jew, he doesn't really mean to aser, but rather he's just coming along in what? He's just coming along and trying to battle with. So uri kamechavein. In this kind of case, I will say where there's hasra, an acceptance of hasra, this person unfortunately has left the reservation, right? This person unfortunately will be categorized as Yisrael Mumar. So we'll say, so how do we paskin in this situation? So in this, I will say, happens to be an incredibly important halacha in general in terms of Adam Oser Davar She'eno Shalo. So obviously here we're talking about a vis-a-vis Shchita. So the Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Shchita, this is in Yardeya Siman Dalet Sif Dalet. Yisol Sheshachat Behemas Chaver LaAvodas Kochavim. So we'll say if one Jew shechts a fellow Jew's animal for the sake of avodah zarah, lo asra. Ultimately, again, he does not asra the animal. Why? Shevadai lo kivein elo letzaro. Because I will say because only rather the shechter, the shochet, right, only has in mind to cause pain to his friend. He's just trying to bother him, cause him tsar. He's not actively shechting anything for avodah zarah. V'im yesh lo shutfus ba. Yesh omrim sha'oser gam chelak chavero, v'yesh omrim de gam bazeh ino mechavin alatzar shutfo v'lo le'isser. So I'll say ultimately again, so the Shulchan Aruch paskins that if you shecht your friend's animal for avodah zarah, so it does not answer the animal because we assume your intention is not for avodah zarah, but rather just to go ahead and what? Just to go ahead and cause him pain. Now, the Ramah comments and the Ramah says v'im hisrubo v'aver hasra. If we warned Reuven before he shechted Shimon's cow, says if you do this for avodah zarah, it's a death penalty, and he accepted it, right? Reuven acknowledged and accepted the asura. Then the Ramah says he's a Yisrael mummer, and Einach Hinami, he would go ahead and asur the animal. The Rabbi say, now this comes on the heels of the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Mem Hey, in Hilchos Avodas Kochavim Sivches, that says as follows: Bali Chaim Einon Asar. So let's skip a little bit. So we'll say this is talking about in general that if you bow down, the topic over here is asering someone's stuff. So for example, this is Hilchos Alos Kochavim. So Shulchan Aruch says if you bow down to your friend's animal, that does not go ahead and make that animal avodah zarah. However, asa b'maisa, if you did something to that animal, sheshachta la'avodas kochavim, afilu simin echad nesra, v'afilu inu shalo. But if you did a maisa to that animal, Rabbi says how we got started with Rav Huna and Ula on Amud Aleph. If you did something to that animal, then as a maisa avodah zarah, then inachinami the animal becomes aser. The dafka oved kochavim oser davar she'eno shalo, aval Yisrael Eino oser shel chavero, shavadai eino mechavin ela litzaro. So we'll say, so this is incredibly important. So here the Shulchan Aruch says it quite explicitly, that even if we hold Adam oser davar she'eno shalo, that a person can ask for something that does not belong to them, that only applies to an akum, to a Jew, and not from Jew to Jew. Why? Because from Jew to Jew, if one Jew asks his friend's property, we never take it seriously. We assume that he's just trying to cause him tsar, just trying to cause him difficulty, but does not actually mean to go ahead and transform his object, his property, into a cheftza shel isser. But again, the Shulchan Aruch says that halacha l'maisa, that's only with a regular Jew. But unfortunately, a Yisrael mummer will be treated like an akum. Okay, good. And we'll say with that, let's go back there. It says the Mishnah, Ein shochtin, lo l'soch yomim v'lo l'soch naros v'lo l'soch kelim. So we'll say, so the halacha is The halacha is, truth is, there's more halacha Radzira, but we'll have to leave it. So, in shochten lo l'soch, yom of lo l'soch, nas for lo l'soch kelim. But say the halacha is you're not allowed to shecht into the sea. Now remember again, this is different than the previous Mishnah. In the previous Mishnah, we were speaking about, shechting for the sea. In this case, we're shechting into the sea, into the water. Now, the concern over here is that it looks like, appearance is, right? It looks like I'm shechting for the sea again. So we don't shecht into the sea, v'lo l'soch naros, not into rivers, v'lo l'soch kelim, not into utensils. We'll say these were all types of idolatrous practices. Aval shochetu l'soch uga shalnaim. But we'll say you can shecht into a pool of water, ubesvina al gabe kelim. And in a boat, you can also shecht into utensils. Why, Rabbi say? Because although normally we don't want you shechting into utensils, because we'll say that has the appearance, like Rashi points out, that you're collecting the blood for avodah zarah. On a boat, you could shecht into utensils. Why? Because we'll say there it's understandable. You don't want the boat to get filled with blood, right? So that's why there's not an avodah zarah appearance; it's a utilitarian experience. Next. So the Gemara says, "Aval shochetu l'soch uga shamayim b'sin shakein." Fine. Ech shochetu l'guma kolek. Rabbi say you can never shecht into a pit. Rabbi say now the logic over here of the pit, we're going to see this was a common idolatrous practice. So you can't shecht into a pit. However, what can you do? Aval osa guma b'soch beiso b'shil sheikanes adam l'socha. But you can make a pit in your home in order that the blood should go into it. So we'll say, the Gemara is going to ask the obvious kasha. You just told me you can never shecht into a pit. And then what does the next line say? You can shecht into a pit in your house. So we'll say, we'll discuss that. Ubeshuk lo ye asakein. In the marketplace, we'll say you can't use a pit bichlal. In order not to strengthen the position of the tzdukim. In other words, we'll say, Rashi says, so we'll say, so we see the pit issue was clearly an issue ultimately, again, of avodah zarah practice. Good, says the Gemara. So we'll say, why can't I shecht an animal into the sea? Because we'll say there's a concern that it looks like I'm shechting it for the angel or for the god of the sea. So the Gemara says, well, that's very interesting. Maybe I shouldn't be able to shecht into a pool of water. Why? Because in a standing pool of water, what can you see? Your reflection. Maybe people will say that ultimately, again, I'm offering something up to my own reflection. So we'll say, interestingly enough, Rava says, you're right, in general we would avoid shechting even into pools of water as well, unless, again, it's like dirty or muddied water, where ultimately, again, the reflection is not so visible. So we'll say, so the Mishnah said, you cannot shecht into a pit. So we'll say, remember again, the Mishnah said you can't shecht into a pit, but in your house, right, you could dig a pit. So the Mishnah said you can't shecht into a pit at all. We'll say again, this was because this resembled idolatrous practice. No, we'll say when the Mishnah said you can't shecht into a pit, that's talking about a pit in the marketplace. That Rabbi say is you can't do that under any circumstances. That's not true, because remember the end of the Mishnah says, and in the marketplace you can never shecht into a pit. We'll say we can infer from there, therefore, that the beginning of the Mishnah is not talking about the marketplace. Rather, Rava says, this is what it means to say. You cannot shecht into a guma, into a pit at all. We'll say, because again, that resembles idolatrous practice. However, but we'll say, here's the issue. Shchita is messy. So let's say I'm shechting in my yard. Now the pit would be very helpful for me. We'll say, why? Because again, I shecht, let all the blood drain in there and cover it up afterwards. But you tell me I can't shecht into a pit, so what can you do? Someone who wants to shecht in his courtyard, but doesn't want it to get all fashmust with the blood of the shchita. So what do you do? We'll say, you know what you can do? Dig a pit, but don't shecht into the pit. Rather, what do? Make a little channel next to the pit. Shecht into the channel and allow the blood ultimately to flow into the channel, which then flows into the pit. In other words, what the Gemara is saying over here is, we'll say, is that what? Is that halacha l'maisa, The issue is shechting into the pit itself. So therefore, again, the Mishnah says you can't shecht into a pit. Then the Mishnah says, but if you're shechting in your house, you can shecht into a pit. What it means is, I'm not actually shechting in my house, rather I'm shechting in the chutz, in the courtyard of my house. It means that halacha l'maisa, dig a channel next to the pit, shecht into the channel, allow the blood to fall into the channel, and then from there flow into the pit. Ubeshuk lo ye'asekein. We will say in the marketplace, you cannot employ this process at all. Shelo yachkes atzadukim. So we'll say, here's the interesting part. In the marketplace, I will say, people were not makbid to go ahead and keep the marketplace clean. Right? So I will say in my yard, or in my bayis, if I'm shechting, I understand why the need for the pit. In the marketplace, people were not makbid to keep it clean. Therefore, there was only one reason you were digging a pit in the marketplace, and that's why avodah zara. Therefore, I will say pit in the marketplace or shechita is off limits at all times, even if you employ the channel method. Tanya kavase di Rava, we'll see a brayso which supports Rava. If a person was traveling by boat and you want to shecht an animal, but there is no place on the boat to shecht an animal, motzi yado chutz l'sfina. So we'll say the best thing to do is literally again hold the animal overboard, right? Or at least hold the neck of the animal overboard, shecht over the side of the boat. Vidam shoses v'yored al dofne hasvina. And this way, again, the boat, the blood trickles down on the side of the boat. Now, both say, even though that blood trickles down on the side of the boat, ultimately to the water, right, that's not called shechting into the water, but rather, again, it's called shechting on the side of the boat. Vein shochet leguma kol ikar. And I will say, ultimately, again, we do not shecht into a pit at all. V'arotz l'naker chatzero. Those a person needs to shecht in his courtyard and wants to keep his chutzner clean. Keisiru osa. What do? Osa makom chutz leguma. Those say dig your pit, then make a channel next to the pit. V'shochet and shecht into the channel. V'dam shoses v'yori leguma. And that way again the blood will go into the channel and ultimately trickle into the pit. Ubechatz ubeshuk. Lo ya'asekein, but I will say in the marketplace you can't do this at all. Mishum shene'amar ubechuko seyem lo selechu. Because I will say again, this was clearly an idolatrous practice. And again, in the shuk, where no one's careful to keep the shuk clean to begin with. So therefore, again, there's really no excuse to dig the pit. And if you're digging the pit, we're concerned that it's bechuko seyem lo selechu. You're emulating the ways of the avodah zarah. So listen to this. V'masekein. And if someone did shechita like this, they dug a pit, right, in the marketplace, and they shechted into the pit, Tzarich bidika acharav. Say you have to investigate such a person. You have to investigate them. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Ubeshuk lo ubedika acharav shema minhu laavodas kochavim v'yibadlu mipito umeyeno. We'll say quite amazing. If somebody did in fact go ahead and do this, and they went ahead and what? They went ahead and they shechted into the pit, then what Rabbi saying? Then halacha l'maaseh, you have to check into maybe his spiritual credentials, his theological credentials, that chas v'shalom, maybe he's a min, and ultimately again you have to check into him, and therefore regarding the status of his bread, as well as the status of his wine. Good Rabbi say. So that's the halacha. Mishnah, next case, another really fascinating situation. Hashokhet l'shem ola, l'shem zvachim, l'shem ashlam taz. We'll say, here we go. In this case over here, Rashi says, Hashochet Chullin b'chutz. So we'll say, just to clarify what this case is here. I'm going ahead and I am shechting an animal, right? I'm shechting Chullin b'chutz, right? I'm shechting an animal, regular animal. I will say, but what do? I say that I'm doing it for the sake of a carbon. So I say, Hashochet, so regular Chullin b'chutz, like Rashi says, l'shem ola, right? I'm saying I'm shechting this animal for the sake of an ola. Or zvachim, l'shem asham taloi, l'shem pesach, l'shem toda. We'll say in all of these cases, shchita sal psula. Right? The shchita is possible. We'll say now what's happening over here. Take a look at Rashi just a moment. L'shem ola, Rashi says, Techevan deba b'nedjo b'nedavar. Now we'll say now the kam denam we'll get into this in the Gemara, but the kam denam there between ola, zvachim, asham taloi, pesach, is that they could all be brought as a karban nedava, voluntary offerings. Again, we'll discuss this in greater depth. So what's the issue over here? Haroya omer achshav hu makdish v'shochta la'ola v'kachim b'chutz mutarim v'arayit v'gazer abanan alei psul v'chisham. I'm supposed to listen to this. Because these particular karbanos can be offered up as voluntary offerings, the concern we have is that maybe a person is mamish trying to be makdish kadshim b'chos. And I will say that to be clear, Rashi points out, on a biblical level, if you shecht your animal and you say it's for shlamim, that statement is irrelevant, right? On a biblical level, this is an iser d'Rabbanan, right? This is v'gazer Rabbanan alei psul. I will say this is an iser d'Rabbanan because since these particular offerings can be offered up in a voluntary fashion, we're concerned that people may come to think that you could offer up karbanos on the outside. Okay? How Rabbi Shimon Machshir, Rabbi Shimon says none of this is a problem. None of this is a problem. Okay, so Rashi says Rabbi Shimon Machshir lo chayish l'mares ha'ayin. Rabbi Shimon says not choshish l'mares ayin. People know you can't shecht karbanos outside. They just think that this guy is talking craziness. Shnai mochs, we'll say first one line on the daf. Shnai mochsin besakin v'shochtin echalushum echamikolelu ve'echalushum davar kasher. So we'll say what happens if you have two people holding a knife. One of them shechts for the sake of one of these voluntary offerings, and one of them just has neutral kavana. What's the halacha? Shchita psula. Ultimately, again, the shchita is pasul. Okay, so we'll say next case. Hashochet l'shem chatos, l'shem asham, l'shem asham vaday, l'shem bachar, l'shem meiser, l'shem temura, shchita kshera. We'll say if you shecht if anyone, what's common denominator amongst all these karbanos, these cannot be brought as nidarim and nidavas, right? All these karbanos, chatos, asham vaday, right, bachar, meiser, temura. We'll say these are obligatory offerings. Again, we'll discuss them in greater depth. These are obligatory offerings. Therefore, again, Abosa, because they cannot be brought in a voluntary fashion, therefore it appears that the Tanakama will say that what? We'll say the whole issue over here is a concern that if you offer up your regular animal for the sake of karbanos, people may come to learn from this that you could offer up karbanos outside of the Beis HaMikdash. When does that concept, or when does that marasayin occur? Only in circumstances where what you're saying could, under certain circumstances, have some degree of validity, which is when you could create the chalos shem karban on the animal. But if the designation that you are giving to the animal is not a neder or a nedava, or not something that can be brought as a neder or a nedava, the statement is so clearly meaningless that it does not even trigger an iser derabanan. Therefore, again, Zakal, the Gemara says, here is the principle. Kol davar shenidar v'nidev, will say anything that is brought as a neder or a nedava. So it's anything that can be brought as a voluntary or a pledged offering. Hashochet lishmo aser. So we'll say ultimately again, if you offer it up, if you shecht your animal for the sake of this voluntary neder or nedava offering, ultimately again the animal will be aser. Again, midrabanan. V'she'eno nidar v'nidav. But we'll say if halacha l'maisa the animal cannot be brought as a neder or a nedava, then what? Hashochet lishmo kasher. Ultimately, again, we'll say if one shechts for the sake of this particular karban, ultimately, again, the animal will be kosher. Says the Gemara, so let's analyze. Hashochet l'shem ola. So the Gemara says, Asham talui. So remember, again, we'll say, in the first category of items, right, there was Hashochet l'shem ola l'shem zvachal l'shem Asham talui. So the Gemara says, Asham talui bar nidar v'nidafu. I both say, what is an Asham talui? Asham talui, I both say, represents a carbon that is brought in the event that one's unsure if they did something which is prohibited. So why does the Mishnah include Asham talui amongst the karbanos which could be brought as a neder or nedava? But say Asham talui, we generally assume cannot be brought at your own whim. It is an obligatory offering. It's an obligatory offering that's triggered from a situation of doubt, but obligatory nevertheless, yet it's part of the first grouping, to which the Gemara says, Am Rabbi Yochanan, Hamani Rabbi Lazar, he. In Achanan will say, whose opinion does this reflect? It's Rabbi Lazar. Da'amar misnadev Adam Asham Taloi Bechal Yom. We'll say, remember again, Rabbi Lazar is of the opinion that a person could bring an Asham Taloi every day. And in fact, remember again, the Gemara quoted opinions of people who brought an Asham Taloi. I will say, why would you bring an Asham Taloi every day? You never know. Right? I'm covered. I don't know, maybe I did something wrong, maybe I didn't do something wrong. Right? But ultimately, again, this way I'm covered. So we'll say, although that is not the conventionally held approach, because it is an approach, the Mishnah is reflecting that particular opinion. What about Pesach? So we'll say, Pesach is also included in the list of karbanos which could be brought as a neder and a dava. Pesach bar nidav v'nidarhu zmana kaviyale. We'll say, what do you mean? Pesach cannot be brought as a neder and a dava. Pesach has a specific time. To which the Gemara says, Amar Boshia, shiny Pesach, We'll say, well, Pesach is different. Why? Because we'll say, what can you do? You can go ahead and, technically speaking, separate your Karban Pesach any day of the year. So we'll say, because it can be designated and set aside any day of the year, it's kind of grouped together with the Neder and the Davos grouping. Look at Rashi for just a moment. It's Rashi 2, 4, 6 lines up from before it gets wide. We'll say the entire year you can separate out the Karban Pesach. Right? We'll say, so since a Karban can be designated and set aside as Pesach all year around, that's number one. Plus, number two, if you shecht a Karban Pesach during the year, we'll say, what is the status of that offering? It's considered to be a shlamim. So you put that together, and therefore the Mishnah sees fit to group that together with Nedarim and Nedavos. Am Rabbi Yanai, lo shanu ela tamimim. We'll say furthermore, Rabbi Yanai said this whole issue of the Mishnah is only when Rabbi was saying is only halacha l'maaseh dealing with unblemished animals. Why? Because an unblemished animal ultimately again could technically be fit for a karban. That is when the Rabbanon ultimately again were goes there and said that if you shecht an animal for the sake of neder or nedava for one of these karbanos, then it's going to be asr midirabbanon. But that's only an animal that, technically speaking, would be fit for carbonic usage. Ava ba'ali mumin made the yada. But we'll say again, if the animal is a bal mum, then what? Then ultimately, again, we'll say the statement is totally meaningless. Look at Rashi, first wide line, made the yada, de meshakir velo nafik churba minei. So we'll say if the animal is blemished, everyone knows that it can't be offered up as a carbon anyway. So because of that, halacha l'maaseh, there's no concern of any type of confusion. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, afilu bali mumin nami. But Rabbi Yochanan says, even a bal mum, Rabbi Yochanan holds that the rabbinic concern expressed in the Mishnah still applies. Why? Zimnin de ramile midi amuma v'lo yedia. Because Rabbi says sometimes the animal could have a mum, but the mum is covered up or obscured by something else. People don't see it, and people don't even realize that ultimately the animal is a bal mum. Therefore, Rabbi Yochanan holds that the rabbinic gezeira applies even in situations where the animal has a blemish. Good. Weiter. Hashochet l'shem chatos. So remember again, the Mishnah said that if you shech l'shem chatos, remember, so chatos is an obligatory offering. Because it's an obligatory offering, cannot be brought as neder or nedava. If a person says, I'm shechting this l'shem chatos, the statement is so clearly, unequivocally meaningless that the rabbinic gezeira does not even set in, and the animal is totally fine. Am Rabbi Yochanan, lo shanu ala sheinu mechayev chatos. Rabbi Yochanan says, by the way, that's true that the slaughter is kosher, assuming what Rabbi say, that the person was not mechayev chatos, right? That happens if the slaughterer is not chayev chatos. Look at Rashi, second line. Second in the white line, lo shanu ela sheinu mechayev chatos, de lo amri inshi hashta marfishle da chatos lav b'neder nedava asi v'halo chash banim dilma man dechazi saver mechayev chatasu dahu kala isle nami dahu kala isle demi shebal yodo dvar ave. So we'll listen to this. So the Gemara says, when do we say that if you shech your animal as a chatos that the shechita is kosher? That's only if you are not chayiv a chatos. Right? But I will say, if you're chayiv a chatos, then ultimately, again, the shechita would be pasul. Then I will say, now it's interesting, how would anyone know if the person who's shechting is chayiv a chatos? And I will say, watch this. When are you chayiv a chatos? If you inadvertently violate an avera, which carries with it a penalty of misa or kares. Right? So for such an infraction, if you do it accidentally b'shogeg, you are chayiv chatos. I will say Rashi says something absolutely astounding. Third wide line in, Demi shebal yodo dvar avera b'shogeg. Because I will say if somebody commits an avera accidentally, eino mechape, person would not try to hide it. Why? Because I will say ultimately I want other people to know about my accidental avera in order that I become embarrassed about it and do tshuva. We'll say this is a fascinating dynamic. If I do an avera intentionally, generally I don't want anyone to know about it, right? And I know, because I will say I don't need the embarrassment factor to do tshuva because I know what I did. There's a danger with averos that I commit accidentally. Why do I say? Because again, it happens to all of us. and generally we minimize it. It was an accident. It was an accident. Rashi says over here, the more publicized my accidental avera becomes, the greater the probability that I'll end up doing tshuva for it. Ultimately, again, because people know. So Rashi seems to indicate that amazingly enough, halacha l'maaseh, if I did something that requires a chatas, people would know. So therefore, again, when the Mishnah says that if you shecht your animal l'shem chatas, you are pater, that's only if you didn't actually do something to make you chayiv a chatas. Aval mechuyiv chatas, Aval mechuyiv chatas, so ema l'shem chatasu osa. I will say ultimately again, if I'm chayiv a chatas and I shechted a chatas, all right, I shechted an animal l'shem chatas, then also we have to say that maybe I'm actually having in mind to satisfy my own chatas obligation, and einachinami, the animal would be puzzle. I v'halo kamar l'shem chatasi. I'll say, but 1 second. If he was really shechting it for the sake of his own chatas, then what should he have said? He shouldn't have said l'shem chatas. Rather, what should he have said? L'shem chatasi, for my chatas. To which the Gemara says, right, Rabbi Avo, but only l'shem chatasi. Rabbi says, you're right. We'll say, what's the case? The case is where he is actively saying l'shem chatasi. Einachinami, Rabbi say that is what he is saying. So the Gemara goes weiter. L'shem tmura. So we'll say, remember again. What's the case of, remember, Tamura is when you exchange one animal for another. So apparently, again, if you didn't exchange, outright you're shechting, you say this animal should be a Tamura for a carbon, then Rabbi say such a statement is insignificant, says the Mishnah. Amar Belazar, lo shanu ela she'en lo zevach b'soch beiso. It's irrelevant, Rabbi say, when I don't actually have a sacrificial animal in my house. Aval yesh lo zevach b'soch beiso. Let's say if I have an actual sacrificial animal in my house, and what? And I say, I'm shechting, and I say this animal should be a tamur for the one in my house, Ema amuri amurbei. Ultimately, going to both say I'd have to be concerned that what? This is an actual tamura, and therefore the shechit will be possible. I v'haloka amar l'shem tamuras zivchi, but I never made it possessive, Rabbi. I never said there should be a tamura for my offering. Rabbi Avo. But Omer l'shem temuras zivchi. Einachinami. Rabbi Avo says, what's the case of Osai? Where ultimately, again, I'm saying there should be a temura for my carbon inside the house. Right? So I have to stop over here. We'll pick up the answer to 2 dots tomorrow.